You are listening to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, where each week we have a conversation with everyday martial arts practitioners. From the first motivation to train, martial arts enriches our lives and becomes a lifestyle. Welcome to the individual stories of those martial artists living that lifestyle. You are listening to the abbreviated version. For those of you checking this out on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Full-length versions of this podcast can be subscribed to at our Patreon page, is www.patreon.com/malmag. Or individual full-length episodes can be purchased at our Gumroad page at malmag.gumroad.com. Before we begin this week's program, I would like to remind you to check out martialartslifestylemagazine.com to see articles on the martial arts. Click on the store tab to find products for the practice of Southeast Asian martial arts, featuring Timmy B's brand sticks. Check out the courses tab, currently featuring a course on the Dos Manos method of the Filipino martial arts. Also check out our Places to Train page, featuring top quality martial art academies from around the world. And of course, check out our events page for seminars and events coming up around the world. To see your school listed in our Places to Train page or your event on our events calendar, contact us at malmagonline@gmail.com. This week, I get on Zoom and I connect to Northwest Arkansas, and I talk with Josh Mahoney. We talk about how he got into martial arts, helping the martial arts scene grow in Northwest Arkansas, how the school and the club and the family are all the same, the level of professional athletes, the wisdom of Grandmaster Nene Gaabucayan, and more. Sit back and enjoy. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Tim, how's it going?
Good, buddy. How are you doing?
Good, good. Sorry, I've had the Zoom in the background waiting for like 20 minutes just to bring it up. And then I got into my head trying to think through some timelines and things. And then it was like right at 2:30.
Well, that's all right. It's like 12:31 for me now, so it's not bad. Plus,
Okay.
it just happens to us old guys, You get
Right.
thinking. I know, that's all you got to say to anybody over 40. Well, I just got thinking and my mind got, okay, got it,
Exactly.
We all get it.
Oh, how are things out there?
Oh, you know what? It's starting to get actually hot and humid. I just noticing that the other day. Maybe 2 days ago, I'm just like, holy shit, man, I got to turn on a couple more fans in here. It's getting hot. And I've got one fan I took outside onto my deck dedicated to dry some sticks because the Academy ordered another 100 sticks for me, but they wanted 40 of them done with not only the Academy, but like Legends this year on there.
Oh, yeah, for next week. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's going to be some special edition, like 20 pairs of those.
Oh,
And
cool.
so I'm like, well, shit, they got to be dry, like by then. You can't not. You're gonna sell them after? Fuck no.
Yeah,
So
you
I'm
got to
like,
have them in.
exactly. So I got this fan like blowing on him, going, "Come on!" I'm out here, come on, dry, because I don't want to give them sticks that are still leaking some oil off them and stuff. People are like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, we can just say, "Oh, fresh off the presses" or whatever. But at the same time,
Right. Try to put those in a bag or ship them home if they're still a little, not.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Just
Oh,
some
that's
saran
awesome.
wrap and some rubber bands on the bottoms, and you'll be good. But
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Hey,
go ahead.
real quick, what's going to go on with the Muay Thai sessions with Ajah's health? Greg was
That's a good
here.
question. Yeah, good
Yeah.
question. So, they finally let it known, I would say about 2 weeks ago, maybe, that Ajahn Brian Popejoy is going to do them, and that is a
Okay.
really excellent substitution. If we're going to sub someone out, I think that's the
Right.
best because he's close here,
Mm-hmm.
and his track record speaks for itself. And
Right.
I had the best time. I got hired by Ajah's wife once to film a coach development camp they did for WTBA, and it was at his place, and it was basically him, Greg, and I'm trying to think who else. There's three instructors, and
Wow.
the best part about kind of filming this and whatever, and I'm like, these guys are doing stuff I'm experimenting with, so you feel good about yourself, going, thank God I'm going the direction of these guys that know what the fuck they're doing.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and that's like one of the best reaffirming things that happens.
Yeah,
And like,
exactly.
I had that happen, a month ago. one of Brian Mossy's senior guys that, he's a Muay Thai guy. And he'll never admit that he's a big jiu-jitsu guy because he just sees himself as a Muay Thai guy. But, Brian had more private hours under Pedro Sauer, I think, than anybody because he
Right.
ran the school with him. And anyway, Sean Patrick was here for one of Mark's little camps. And we were just talking about training techniques. And he started talking about some of the drills that he came up with for improving kicks. And I was like, oh gosh, I do that one. I do that one too.
Yeah.
And
Oh
it
my
was like,
God.
okay, I'm like, I'm still with it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's good if it's not something that obviously you're going to give it credit if you're directly taking it from someone who you've
Right.
learned it. But sometimes you come up with these ideas of things.
Mhm.
You're like, this would probably be a good idea, and then when you go in and one of these top level coaches are doing that thing, you're like, oh my God, I feel so much better that I'm not bullshitting myself or going in a bullshit way, right?
Right, exactly. Like, yeah, and and Sean is definitely that way. Like, I have a lot of respect for him as a fighter and a talented
Yeah,
Muay
yeah,
Thai practitioner. And so it was just like, okay, like I love Muay Thai, but if you put Sean and I in the ring, Sean's gonna beat the crap out of me. Like that's just what's gonna happen. And
yeah,
so
of
if I'm
course.
coming up or doing some of the similar things that he's come up with spontaneously, then I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
I feel
exactly.
like I'm doing justice to the people I'm teaching.
Exactly. And that's the way I looked at it. I was watching that going, okay, well, Greg trains professional fighters. Brian trains professional fighters. So
Hmm.
what they're doing has been executed and used in a successful way. So therefore they are continuing to do it. So
Hmm.
if I figured that out and was teaching my students, I'm like, thank God I'm not taking, them the wrong way. I just know that, that's a good thing.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, imagine if Greg got out and showed a drill that you and I liked and was like, don't ever do that again. It's
Yeah,
awful.
yeah, yeah, exactly. This is the worst thing you could do to someone. I'd be like, yeah. They'd say, Tim was 6'4" when he came here, and why is he 3'6" now?
Yeah.
So funny. Oh my God. And
Yeah.
I kind of had that moment too with Guru Dan. And it was
Uh-huh.
something I was playing around with some of the Jun Fan ABC sets and the cross counter sets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I started kind of playing around in the drill in my class, making it a little bit more interactive and all that. And right before COVID and right in the beginning of COVID, we had a young man that came to the academy to train. His name's Mason Lee. And Mason Lee is an actor. You've probably read about this,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
So hopefully this Bruce Lee film goes.
Right.
In fact, you know what? He just had a birthday. It's been a while since I've talked to him. I need to reach out to him because he was a good buddy. He was my main lockdown buddy actually while I was here.
Okay.
So good guy. Trained really hard while I was here. And so I got to be at least a pad holder in there. The main trainers for him were Guru Dan, obviously, Sioshiabi, and Salim. Those were the three
Right.
people that would train him, and I would go in and hold the pads and stuff for him. And so, what Guru started doing with him and having me do, I'm like, oh my God, this is the same kind of thing I adapt these drills into doing. And
Yeah.
I asked Guru about it. He goes, oh yeah. He goes, when they started getting more advanced in the JKD, this is what we were doing. And I'm like, oh my God, that's okay. That's great. I'm not thinking stupid. I'm thinking, and what that kind of stuff generally comes to for me is this idea of there is a lot of steps between me statically practicing something with someone else and
Right.
then fighting it or sparring it, we should say. And
Right.
so, how do I take these things in many steps along the way to
Hmm.
get better at it and then increase it more to that sparring like situation, but not make it that so I can
Right.
cut that skill learning curve a little bit. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where a lot of that's coming from. And to see that these guys are doing that sort of thing, it
Hmm.
makes me feel pretty good about, my brain, at least the way it's functioning as a teacher.
Oh, for sure. And I'll probably like bring this up again as we get further along and after and feel free to start us anytime, by the way.
That's
We
why I'm
can put
saying,
all this at the
what?
beginning on the
Yeah, we've been talking about all this good stuff. So
yeah,
I think I'm
let's
going to pick it up. I'm actually going to
yeah.
start this a little bit right after we started talking because it's good stuff. So here, I'll do the formal intro and then we'll just keep going. So,
Okay.
welcome to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, everyone. You've been listening to a few minutes of me and my current guest, good friend of mine that I met. Gosh, I'm trying to think when, but you were just through town here recently, so and it was kind of
Yeah, I
funny
was there
because
a week from Monday. Yeah,
yeah,
week
yeah,
from Monday.
exactly. Yeah, it was really such a short time ago, and it was funny. Dory's like, "Well, do you know Josh?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I know Josh. Jesus Christ!" I was like, "Yeah, yeah," and you're like, "Yeah, I know this bum," So it was kind of cool. So like, yeah, of course we got to get you on. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a man who's one of the handful of people that are turning Northwest Arkansas into this kind of mecca of badass martial artistry, whatever. I don't know how to say that.
Oh,
It
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
mean, seriously, it's like you could go right now, I think, to Northwest Arkansas, and you're going to find like half dozen or more really good martial art people to train with.
Yes. Yeah. It's
Josh
wild.
Mahoney. Anyway, I should say your name,
Oh yeah,
Josh
you're great.
Mahoney.
No, Josh Mahoney. Yeah, thank you. Well, I get so excited about the area that like I'll forget about myself because
Right.
it's like, you know, you and I are lifelong martial artists that love to train. And so it's sort of like one day I woke up and it went from being a cool place to train because I had access to cool people to like I'm like in Toys R Us,
Yeah.
or something like that. Um, of course, and I'll get into this a bit, but I met Marc McFann here in 2000, and Mark was really became my second dad, and
Hmm.
I'll give you the whole story behind that. But here in Northwest Arkansas now, there are Italo Lins, who just won the Masters division for himself at Worlds. He was a
Hmm.
former champ, IBJJF, Worlds, and I can't remember if that was just in his division or open, but he's got a storied history of incredible competition. There's a lock called the Lens Lock that is named
Hmm.
for Italo Lins, and I get to train with Italo 3 days a week and like hang out with this guy. Um, his wife was world champion last year, and she is just incredible. And then there's a whole sort of like circle of friends around here. Ishmael Santos, who is one of my coaches right now too, who is always, in the very top of practitioners in black belt jiu-jitsu in his age group, and
Hmm.
he's 24, and so he's got plenty of more time to compete too. So he'll be around
Yeah,
quite
it's
a
just
bit.
that's a baby.
Oh, it is, right?
That's right.
Um, so you've got guys like that, and then one of my best friends is a guy named Abel Perry, and Abel's one of those guys that is so incredibly humble. You don't know he's around until you start talking to him. But Abel was part of the Mayweather fight team for a number of
Oh
years.
wow. Okay.
And so he was sparred partners with Floyd, you know, every day for years. And he'll joke that his claim to fame is he got beat up by every great professional boxer, in
Yeah.
sparring or anything like
Sure.
that. And he was an
Those are the
Olympic
guys that
coach.
make the great coaches, right? Because
Oh,
they
yeah.
have this amazing knowledge.
He'll have stories about Triple G and going to like towards the end of his professional career. He actually ended up training with Pacquiao when he was having,
Yeah.
I think, his last rematch with Floyd. Things like that.
That's a
And
guy I want to meet because I can throw the Kazakhstan connection there. I lived and taught there for 2.5 years, so like I'd
oh,
love to meet him and go, hey.
in what's wonderful, like I'll connect you, Tim, because you'll love him,
Yeah.
even though he is a boxer first. Like Abel's a martial artist that
Right.
boxes. Sometimes you meet people in sports martial arts that that's just what they do and they don't think about the wider scope.
Right.
But Abel is collaborative and open-minded, and we've taken so much from Pan and Tukin and mixed it back into like the
Yeah.
boxing that we do together and things like that. And he was here last spent the whole weekend with Greg Nelson while he was here, and we were doing clinch, of course. And 10 minutes in to doing clinch, he and Abel are over there like just I don't know where they went. It's just like when you're watching
Yeah.
conversations you can't understand. It's like two people
Yeah.
speaking
Yeah.
calculus, but it's awesome.
Right. But you want to
And
stand there because you're like, I want to remember as much of it is because at some point some of it's going to make some sense and I'm going to remember it. Right.
yeah,
So you're taking it
yeah.
in. Yeah.
And so you've got him here, and then there's these gyms, Straight Right Gym that's in Springdale and in Fayetteville. Calvin Henderson's there. I think he's number 10 in his division in pro boxing. I mean, but all that to
Damn.
say,
Yeah.
like this is an easy place to be. It's wonderful to be in Northwest Arkansas. It's financially accessible, and you get access to this talent uh, that is within most people's budgets too. So it's not like
Right.
I'm spending $500 an hour to, get to see somebody. And of course, that's probably going to be money well spent if they're charging
Of
$500
course.
an hour. But, I can go train with world champions here, and other people can go train with them and work with them privately for like $100,
Wow.
or 150 at most. I think I mentioned to you too, one of BJ Penn's coaches from his gym in Hilo is
Yeah.
now spending half the year here,
Right.
in the fall and the winter. And so, like,
Wow.
I had this moment where he was here, Abel's here, Greg Nelson is here, Mark's with them, and I'm hanging out. And I'm just like, how did this happen? Like, this is the best. Um,
Exactly.
and so right now, Kinsey Morrison, Tommy Morrison's son, the heavyweight pro boxer.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah, I remember him. I didn't know he had a son, and that the son's involved. That's great.
yeah, Kinsey he's 22-1 in pro boxing, and he's going to have a bare knuckle fight on June 21 in Texas. It's a
Wow.
BKFC, and so like Kinsey and Abel in here have been working, and so it's just an interesting, neat little space here. And of course, you've got people coming from St. Louis and Tulsa and
Well,
Dallas and
yeah, because you're centrally located, which is kind of a cool thing too. So even if you needed to, say, go out to somebody, the good
Mhm.
stuff you have, well, you have the good stuff there, but you have other good stuff that's within like an easy transportation, either by car or by
Yeah,
plane, quick.
yeah, exactly. And that's, kind of working backwards. The way I came up with the gym that I have, it sort of is kind of a club.
Hmm.
It's, I call it a co-training space. Because
Ah, that's cool.
yeah, well, I wanted to teach, but my wife is a corporate executive. She has very little time in the evenings, and she also ends up working on the weekends because she's just busy, and her job is wonderful. It takes good care of us, and I do my best to facilitate her schedule. So I'm probably never going to have regular classes in the evening. Like I just don't have time because if I did that, I would never see my spouse. And my wife is my best
And that's,
friend.
yeah, that's bad. That's bad for that situation.
Yeah,
Totally get
yeah, yeah. And my wife's my favorite person, so I want to see my favorite person.
that. That's great.
And yeah, and so I teach privates during the day and in the afternoons and smaller groups on the weekends. And then some of Mark's other instructors he's made train out of here. And of course, Mark teaches some classes out of here too. And Abel teaches privates out of here and does kind of fight camps here. And the same with my friend Joey Gomez, that's the MMA guy. And
Hmm.
then, Italo and Ishmael will drop in and do stuff. And so it's got a really neat vibe here because most of the people that know about me or the space have some kind of experience.
Wow.
And with the senior guys, when somebody else kind of, oh, it's going to sound like I'm such a hipster snob, but when somebody comes around that is interested, usually we kind of like, hey, I'm thinking about bringing this guy in. What do you guys think? And and usually I've never had anybody say no, but it's always kind of like, you know, nothing informal, but just make sure everybody's got buy-in. Oh yeah, that's a cool guy. Yeah, bring him in. And so I get to facilitate all of that, and we get this really cool training community out of it of people that, you know, we want to train smart, we want to train functionally and hard when we want to, but we also know how not to hurt each other and how to
Right.
train around
Yes.
things and collaborate and on and all that because
Now, isn't that an interesting difference between working with professionals and working with the bros who think they know what professionals do?
yes, oh, it's absolutely different, because I'll be 45 next month. And
Okay.
yeah, and it's you know, you and I have met so many good people, so many talented martial artists. They got hurt, something happened in their life or whatever. People that were way more talented than me,
Hmm.
and they're not training for one reason or the other, and they're probably not going to train again.
Which is
And
sad. Yeah.
yeah, and you
Really
realize
sad.
like I'm this age and I still get to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And now my goal is to still do this when I'm 65.
Right.
And then if I can still be doing it when I'm 75, I'll have really done something.
Well, there's a bar that keeps getting set every July, right?
Yes, yes. We're not. I
89,
mean, with
89 will be the, yeah, I was gonna say 89 will be the bar next month.
yeah, I know. Well, Greg's in here like throwing me around last weekend, and I'm just like, Greg Nelson, just the legend of Greg Nelson is awe inspiring. And then you meet
sure.
Greg, and you're like, man, he's so much cooler than the legend, and the legend's sort of like, you
Right. What's
you
the
can't
guy like
comprehend it.
kicked the worst kind of cancer's ass twice? So yeah,
Yeah.
this is a superhero right here. This is a living superhero.
Oh, he is. And he called me out to start demoing stuff as soon as he got here. And as soon as I felt his energy, I was like, it's going to be one of those kind of seminars, And I had that moment like, man, I hope he picks other people throughout the course of the weekend. Cause that was a little rough. And no, he used me for everything.
He's like, Josh, you're bouncing really nice today, so I'm gonna just keep bouncing.
Yeah. He let us record everything, and I think 67 clips, so that means 67.
Damn.
Yeah. And that means
is it called Josh's greatest hits on the ground?
a lot of it. Especially like, the second half of the clinch, he's swinging my feet out from under me, and I'm going different ways, and punches are coming in from really unorthodox places that I'm not anticipating. And
right. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I chuckled so much because it looked like Thai camp when I got home. Took my shirt off, and I just have like these polka dots on my sides. And it's because when we started doing the clinch with knees, like we just started knee sparring. We're doing 70%.
You're thinking, did I go play paintball right at 50 degrees or something? Oh no, it's knees, right?
It felt so good though, because Greg is the master of let me give you the energy. So you and I can play this in front of everybody all the time and still not be hurt though.
Right.
Right. And so going back to what you were saying earlier about what's it like learning with professionals and then learning with people that think that's what professionals do. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was phenomenal. But I don't know where I've gone with all this, but this sort of thing of like feeling that energy. Oh yeah, it's Greg's 63, I think.
Is he really? Oh my
yeah.
gosh. I mean, it makes sense, when you say it, I go, well, yeah, he has to be.
Right.
But he's still, then you start, looking at the realization of that number. And I've had this conversation, I'm having it with you again, but I've had it with so many people between the podcast and in person in the last 2 months is, think about your age right now. Think about Greg's age and think about you at 15, what you thought those ages meant.
Right. Oh, I mean, honestly, like I thought 40 was old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's an old guy. I mean, my stepdad was like 40 and he was acted like an old fucking bitchy man. And so I'm like, oh man, that's going to suck. And I'm way past that now.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
way past that now.
My dad was fantastic, and he still would get on the floor and play with me even when I was a toddler because his back was hurt all the time.
Yeah.
And
my dad's a different story. Like he was my father was like Marine, but he had jobs that made his lifestyle, unfortunately, a little bit more sedentary. So at my age, a little before my age, he had 2 major heart attacks in 1 week. And then he had like a triple bypass. And then he had to have that. Well, one of them redone, 2 more done. He had a stroke after that. I tell you what, I don't know how this guy lived to be 80, but he did. My father lived till 2019 and he was 80 years old. And I looked at that and went, well, God, my lifestyle is so much different that I'm thinking if I have his constitution and my health, I'll live to be 130.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Tim, you just might,
Yeah, you never know with all that's going on. But, it's like we are really in this generation of people. Guru Dan's obviously, I think, way ahead of his time.
Right.
But, the other like older masters and people like his contemporaries are sort of the same. But again, that's a real small amount of people. But we're seeing more people in our generation continuing to do stuff at a level that would have been considered like almost competitive, realistically. Right. I mean, for our age group, 100%.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to go compete with 20-year-olds, but we could compete with other people our age at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I think, you know, I've seen two things that sort of really like emphasize this for me in the last few years is, you know, Mark had a double stroke during the pandemic, and I think, you know, with Sifu McFann, you know, Mark was such a tough guy.
And this concludes the abbreviated version of the podcast. Please consider supporting the program by going to www.patreon.com/MALMAG and subscribing to the show. You can also purchase this individual episode or any individual episode at our Gumroad page. That's malmag.gumroad.com. Thank you for listening to this episode with Josh Mahoney. Coming up next week, I connect again with Wisconsin, and I talk with martial artist Sean McCarthy. Our Malmag online store at martialartslifestylemagazine.com has a full selection of Timmy B's brand sticks for FMA and Krabiker Bong. Timmy B's brand now selling in Japan as well. Beautiful Timmy B's brand shirts and Dos Manos shirts are available. We also have sarongs, malongs, and wooden training knives. An online course in the Dos Manos method for FMA is available under the Courses tab. More courses coming soon. Check out the Places to Train tab to find schools near you, and click on the Events Calendar page to see what seminars and events are happening all around the world. And of course, visit our main page for articles on the martial arts. Music by Arthur J. Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine and the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast are trademarked and copyrighted by TNT LLC.